What rights do employees have? What is the company's responsibility to employees? The approach a company takes in making these decisions can result in successfully achieving its short and long-term goals, or, God forbid, ceasing to exist. So there's a lot on the line over here. Strategic types. Again, we continue with strategy implementation. Strategic types. Porter's cost and differentiation. Value can be created by reducing costs. Of course, reduce your costs, have a lot more value. Value can be created by differentiating a product or service so the company can change a premium price relative to its competitors. If you make yourself distinct, you have something that everybody wants, you're the guy that has that bottle of water in the desert, right? Imagine when somebody's in the desert and they're dying of thirst and he has $1 million in his suitcase. You don't think he'll give it up for a bottle of water to survive? Obviously he will. Now, I know that's a bit of a drastic kind of statement, but in business, if you have value, you can create value by being distinct. And if you're a good employer and you spend money on your employees, you give them very good salaries, you give them good health benefits. Even within health benefits, yeah, it may look attractive. Okay, I give you a health benefit plan, it only costs $1 a paycheck. But it's really only worth $1 a paycheck, because when you go to the doctor, it covers very little, or you have high deductibles and high copays. And that could also be insulting. It's like, yeah, I just gave you a health plan. In case you happen to need open heart surgery, it'll cover 50% of it. That's not incentivizing employees. Giving them quality benefits, decent vacation, work flexibility, good work environment, gym membership. Why do all these corporations get into? Why does Google go crazy on employee amenities? Because it understands Porter's cost and differentiation. Yes, you want to reduce costs, but at the same time, if you could raise your level of differentiation to the point where it's a no-brainer, of course I want to work for you. Where you have to reject a lot of applicants because you just have too many, then you're doing well, even if it costs you more. HRM needs and strategic types. Role behaviors. Behaviors acquired of an individual in his or her role as a job holder in a social work environment. Core strategies. Companies define the skills they require and invest in training employees in these skilled areas, which is very important. Give people the tools that they need to do their jobs. Differentiation strategies. Employees are expected to exhibit role behaviors that include cooperating with others, developing new ideas, and taking a balanced approach to process and result. So again, just to redefine, role behaviors are the behaviors acquired of an individual in his or her role as a job holder in a social work environment. It's what's expected of you in your role. These role behaviors vary in a number of dimensions, which we've mentioned in the slide. Okay, let's move on. All right, strategy implementation continue. Directional strategies, concentration in an industry, internal growth, mergers and acquisitions, and of course, the D word, one of the filthiest words in all of HR, downsizing. Let me tell you something. It's not fun. Take it for someone that's been laid off twice, and hopefully never again. It is a horrible, horrible feeling. I mentioned this, I'll say it again. Simon Sinek talks about this, how people find it easy to lay people off because it's a spreadsheet. You're just a name on a spreadsheet, or a number, right? I don't have any connection to you. So I just, take you off the spreadsheet. And if you think of the person as a human being with a family, that they won't be able to pay their rent and won't be able to survive, and it'll impact their children's health and welfare, it won't be so easy to downsize. Maybe you'll think of another strategy to change things around. Concentration strategies require that the company maintain the current skills that exist in the organization, need for skill-based training, and fair compensation to keep the skills on a steady path. So again, concentration strategy is a strategy focused on increasing market share, reducing costs, or creating and maintaining a market niche for the products and services, of course, by maintaining current skills. Further, move on. Internal growth strategies. Companies must constantly hire, transfer, and promote individuals. Compensations weighted towards the achievement. Joint ventures require conflict resolution. When you have a joint venture, you have people with different, both companies have their way of doing things, so you have to bring peace. Now it's almost like a marriage. People come from two different worlds, People have different proclivities, different attitudes, different feelings. You have to learn how to merge the two and give in. I'm not trying to give sagely advice, but that's really what it boils down to. Mergers and acquisitions on the increase. HR needs to be involved. People issues can cause problems as well, especially when you're merging and acquiring companies from other cultures, other parts of the world where certain behaviors may not be frowned upon or are frowned upon and don't mesh with yours. People issues can cause these problems, different organizational cultures, and of course how you resolve this. External growth strategy is the emphasis on acquiring vendors and suppliers or buying businesses that allow companies to expand into new markets, and that's where all these problems in this slide come up. Downsizing, planned elimination. It sounds so sterile. It almost seems like I have another way of calling it premeditated financial murder. I know it sounds like that, but it sounds harsh. Now again, there are times when you must downsize. Again, I don't mean to be gory here, but what happens to a person, God forbid, if they have gangrene on a limb and they don't remove that gangrenous limb? What happens? The body dies. If they remove that gangrenous limb, the body lives. If your organization is not doing well and you want to maintain the same employee numbers and you can't because you just don't have the wherewithal to do it, yes, you must make tough decisions, because if you don't make those decisions, everyone gets laid off. So again, it's scary. Who lives and who dies? Who gets a paycheck? Who doesn't? Frightening. But according to the slide, downsizing has slowed since 2008, tends to fall short of meeting companies' financial and organizational objectives, and has negative effects on employee morale and productivity, and of course the environment. Let's look at Detroit, right? After the debacle of the economic meltdown of 2008, what happened to many places of Detroit that became abandoned? Why did it become abandoned? Because the the automobile industry went down the tubes. So workers lived around the factories. If they don't have jobs, they can't pay their mortgages. They just abandon their houses. And of course, you have swaths of blocks and blocks of abandoned houses, wild animals roaming. It's crazy. It's apocalyptic. The HRM function must surgically reduce the workforce by cutting only the workers who are less valuable in their performance. Early retirement programs usually result in rehiring. Also, just early retirement may be a way of avoiding layoffs, incentivizing people to retire early. And survivor morale issues. Well, people that, when you lay people off, what do you have? The survivors, they almost feel like, now it's us. We have to do more work. Then you feel very bad. You feel bad for the people that got laid off. You feel bad for yourself that you have all this extra work. Now you don't know when it's your turn next. It's pretty scary. Not something that I envy. Here's a chart of layoff events and separation from 2009 to 2003. All right, we could look at the appendix here for a moment. The graph shows a high of 8,000 layoff events and 800,000 separations in the first quarter of 2009 to a low of 3,000 layoff events and 350,000 separations in the third quarter. So you see a fantastic drop. The economy definitely stabilized itself, and that's always a good thing. All right, let's move back. Okay. The role of human resources in providing strategic competitive advantage. Emergent strategies consist of the strategies that evolve from the grassroots of the organization. It can be thought of as what organizations actually do, as opposed to what they intend to do, usually identified by those lower in the organizational hierarchy. Intended strategies, the result of the national decision-making process used by top managers as they develop a strategic plan. This is more of the broad-based strategy. Enhancing firm competitiveness, developing a human capital pool, meaning a group having enough people that you could draw upon, that gives the company the unique ability to adapt to an ever-changing environment. Learning and that adaptive behavior is your learning organization. So recently, managers have become interested in the idea of learning organizations in which people continually expand their capacity to achieve the results they desire. This requires a company to be in constant state of learning, through monitoring the environment. So the organization itself has to be a learning organization where they're always keeping tabs on the environment. Assimilating information, making decisions, and flexibly restructuring to compete in that environment. Companies that develop such learning capability have a competitive advantage. Although certain organizational information processing systems can be an aid, ultimately the people, which is human capital, who make up the company, provide the raw materials in a learning organization. You need people to be doing the learning, but you also have to provide the framework for this. And the following next slides are all appendices which we went through. So that concludes the lecture for tonight. Maybe we'll show a quick video right now.